introduction. It's always generous. Nice to be in Berlin, seeing friends and people from my region. I don't want to apologize that I was lazy, but I was traveling while teaching classes on Thursday. When I arrived, I had about three classes that started at 7, but went into the night. As I was traveling, I was thinking about this paper, but yeah, I'm going to apologize for not really presenting a paper that I thought would be complete. But it's a topic that I've been thinking about for some time. But congratulations, the newly minted PhD, and congratulations, the president of OSA, and the industrious scholar, Sabaragaza. So I'm going to start, and as much time as you would like to give me, I would take it. But now it's it's, I don't know, 8:41 in Michigan, but I'll take it if you give me. And the Oromo community in Berlin, nice to be with you again. Yeah, my topic is the new great game in the Horn of Africa and the rise of Ethiopia's New South. Today, I am going to talk about the future. And that would be a strange thing to do for a trained historian. Most historians maintain that knowing what has already happened cannot possibly help to tell what is going on, what's going to happen. Many deny that there are any big patterns to find in the past, and those who believe that there are big patterns do not feel that they feel that detecting them is beyond our powers as historians. Nearly all historians subscribe to the notion that the historian's craft has nothing to do with the future. But this is not a universal position. Ian Morris, a British historian and archaeologist, insists that historians can extract some patterns if they broaden their perspective and look up deep into history. In this book, Why the West Rules for Now, he explains why the West was more developed early on, how it lost its lead for 1,000 years between the 6th century and the 16th century, and that is after the fall of the Roman Empire, and how it forged ahead again in the last 2 centuries. What is important about this book is it's not about the rise of the West or the competition with the East, but 3 things that it presents are important. The first is that Ian Morris expanded the time horizon by looking at the evidence of archaeology, linguistics, genetics, to extract long-standing patterns of history over the last 1,500 years in this book. Second important thing is that his study reveals that it is not the difference of race or culture or religion or politics or genetics or not even great men that explains Western dominance for the last 2 centuries. Rather, he says, is the effects of geography on the everyday efforts. Now we flip it to the second one. The effects of he explains this in this book, that what he started talking about in Why the West Rules for Now explains in great detail that geography is the destiny. That what he means is the effects of geography on the everyday efforts of ordinary people, which in turn impacts their ability to shape their economic, political, social, intellectual environments to their own ends. That is, geography determines their ability, and they determine the trajectory of geography. The third is that Morris's view of doing history is not just that history is not just to capture the events of the past, but to use the past to foresee the future. In another book, the idea starts in the comparison that he made of Eastern and Western civilizations, but he actually introduces what he calls social development index, in which he really gives scores to civilizations over a long period of time, mostly about geography. There are 4 categories. I will come to that at the end, but he explains that the forces that allowed Western civilization to overtake Eastern civilization in the past, and now that there is that critical balance is tipping in favor of the East. With that calculation, he actually predicts that the date Eastern civilization is going to overtake Western civilization, and he says that is 2103. There is a closing of the gap. There is no doubt about that. The forces that determine the future of history have migrated towards Southeast Asia, but in general, he says the Eastern civilization will overtake Western civilization in earnest in the year 2103. So those are the 3 important things about the effects of geography, the longue durée perspective of history, and also the scoring of social development index. Now, following Morris, I posit that the forces that allowed Abyssinia to dominate the people of the South, including Oromia, for a century have now waned. The center of power and prosperity in the region has permanently moved south. And I'm not trying to apply Morris's social development index in the kind of mathematical way or calculation that he does, but I'll try to paint a preliminary picture of the mega trends that will likely transform the Horn of Africa as the forces interact with the emerging realities of the societies in southern Ethiopia. Now, first, let me clarify my analytical categories. The first is the great game. Yeah, these are the conceptual framework, but explain one. The great game first. That it's not the great game that I'm interested in, but the new great game. That in a historical sense, the first great game was first used to refer to the intense rivalry between the British and Russian empires in the 19th century as they vied for supremacy in Central Asia, as the British were trying to keep the Russian advances at bay, and the Russians were trying to get to the Indian Ocean, where they will drink the water, use the ports, and have access to an all-round water body in the Indian Ocean. So now this was the first time that it was used. It was popularized by a British novelist in the early 20th century. But in the post-World War period, the phrase was used to describe the Cold War high-stakes diplomatic games. And in the post-Cold War world, it was employed in reference to, again, to Central Asia as global and regional powers, including Russia, China, Pakistan, and Iran, became engaged in competition to secure access to the untapped oil of and the natural gases of the Caspian Sea. Now, what is novel about the great game now is the competition is not geostrategic, it's geoeconomic. It's the pursuit of oil in this case. So that's why it's called the new great game. And that's what I would try to apply to the Horn of Africa. As regards to the concept of the New South in Ethiopia, this emphasis on geoeconomics led to the emergence of the territories in the Ethiopian South as a new political force. Now, we know historically that Ethiopia's southern territories existed as independent kingdoms. They were conquered and subjected to northern domination. But in the last decade, that has changed quite a bit. There are 2 issues here that I would like to address. That the situation changed. First, it's a completion of the historical southward expansion of Ethiopia's political center from Aksum to Lalibela to Gondar to Ankober and finally Addis Ababa. What is important here is that Addis Ababa is now, or Finfinne, is a permanent center of power and prosperity in Ethiopia. What is more important is, and this is probably where I need to explain myself very well, the rise of an ostensibly Oromo political party to the pinnacle of power in Finfinne marked the ascendancy of the hitherto marginalized southern periphery. Now, if you look at that 2018 event as a political event, you will have doubts. But I'm not talking about a political event, I'm talking about a geostrategic and geoeconomic events that are free from the control of human beings. So this event, in my view, signals that the center of power and prosperity in Ethiopia has shifted permanently. And I get this from Morris, who actually by scoring this thing has been taught, it talks about the center of power and prosperity in the world in the 16th century was in the Eastern Mediterranean, then moved to Northern Western Europe, and then after World War II to the United States. And from the United States now, the center of power and prosperity has gone as far as the trajectory is concerned. The center of power and prosperity is not North America now, it is Southeast Asia. Yeah, I'll get to this one as well. So those are my, So in the next decade, and this is really important, economic forces will cement the emergence of the new political center of gravity in Ethiopia. The Indian Ocean Rim is likely to counterbalance the Pacific Rim as an important region, economic region of the world. Home to nearly half of the world's population, to be home to the half of the population by 2050, and its central position in terms of global trade, industry, labor, environmental security, the Indian Ocean Rim would likely displace the Pacific Rim and become the global maritime and economic hub, making East Africa one of the new drivers of the of global growth over the decades. This is actually live. I took it yesterday. It's a live movement of ships. So for now, what I'm saying is, yes, the North America looks like attracting more global trade. But if you look at it from the other side, it's also the rim, the Pacific Rim is also a large, because of the space, it's not concentrated as the Atlantic, but it's a large economic rim. But in the next 10 years or so, that's going to shift to the Indian Ocean Rim because of India and the rise of Africa and the Middle East connecting to the world. So in the next 10 years, what is going to be the center of really economic activity is not the Pacific Rim, but the Indian Ocean Rim. And that will have an impact on the Horn of Africa, particularly the New South, which is likely to be attracted by economic forces and geographic forces to the Indian Ocean rather than to the historically historically dominant North. So in effect, what I'm saying is really the pool of economic forces is going to reorient the South, the New South, from the dominant position that the North had in the past. Now the geography of the Horn, that is as much I just wanted to say. Now, there are two things that actually give the geography of the Horn its importance historically. The first is the fact that the region is overlooking the passage where the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean converge, controlling one of the narrow straits through much of the 40% of global trade passes, and situated across from the oil-rich states of the Gulf states of the Arabian Peninsula and the Persian Gulf, whose oil tankers supply global energy through these arteries. The second thing that gives importance to the South is the context of the Horn. That is, in the context of the Horn, it is the region is known as the arc of instability. We know that it has always been the arc of instability. what you will see here is what is going to make this area entirely different in the future is the climate change, food security, and water shortages. The conflict over water in this area, especially in the areas that are really darker than other places, is going to be intense. So these are the two issues that actually give its importance, has given its importance to the Horn of Africa historically. But here is the important thing that I want to make, that it's geoeconomic and geostrategic great game that is being played out in the Horn of Africa. Here, Ethiopia derives its significance from the crucial geohydrologic location at the center of triangulated maritime cluster, bounded by the Nile to the west, the Red Sea littoral to the northeast, and the Indian Ocean to the southwest. With its geographic location, demographic size, and historical significance, and its economic potential, Ethiopia stands as a leviathan in the hydropolitics of the interstate, regional, and global interest in Africa. Now, here is where I really want to apply these concepts to Oromia and the significance to Oromia in the future. So let's look at the Red Sea littoral, that cluster. Here, a new great game is being played out, grafting new rivalries onto pre-existing conflicts. Two layered struggles are joined, driven by security and commercial considerations, and aggravated by global warming and food and water security. The first layer, and I really don't want to spend my time on this one, the first layer is the ongoing power play is the old European imperial powers, the United States and China, the expansion of China, but also Russia, which has recently entered the fray through the activities of the mercenary group known as the Wagner Group, and operating in several African countries, including Sudan and Southern Sudan, all the way to Madagascar and all the way to Niger and Burkina Faso. So that is the first layer. The second layer of competition, the new competition, the great game, is between the middle powers, the new generation of Middle Eastern powers racing to gain foothold in the Horn of Africa. There is the Saudi-Iranian conflict on the one hand, and the inter-Gulf squabble, pitting Saudi Arabia and UAE on the one hand against Qatar and Turkey on the other. These are also playing out in the Red Sea, the great game. Now, to secure their objectives, the middle powers have made huge investments in port operations, military bases, and infrastructure development, and have forged closer connections with the leaders of the African side, with the Ethiopian one also very important. So as a consequence, the Horn of Africa has become the most militarized region in the world, and the regional players, including Ethiopia, are playing the game of chess against the new forces shaping the region. Now, despite growing connection with the regional middle powers, the significance of the Red Sea littoral, in which the prosperity and the fate of the people of Ethiopia's south was mediated and controlled by the northern elite, is diminishing. For centuries, the commodities of southern Ethiopia were exported by long-distance trade route that connected southwest Ethiopia through Bure, Gondar, and to Massawa. Over the years, that had moved down to Assab. The main export had moved from Massawa to Assab, as Assab gained importance versus Massawa. And after Eritrea's independence, Djibouti became the main artery of exports for Ethiopia's south. Now, today, Ethiopia is seeing new ports. They acquired about 19% share in Berbera, which they lost because of non-payment, but they're also trying to find new ports in Mombasa and Lamu. What I'm interested is the movement from Massawa to Assab to Djibouti to Hargeisa and now down to Lamu. That's a geographic force. That's economic. Those are economic forces. It's not a choice or a political decision that leaders actually make. But it strengthens my argument that the center of gravity is now fixed. Now, here is another important issue: the northwestern cluster of the geohydrologic body. Now, contrary to the widely held perception that Abyssinian highlanders have, most of Ethiopia's water contribution to the Blue Nile. Now, let's go to the, okay. It's not in any particular order. Go ahead and, this one. To the Blue Nile comes from Oromia. As indicated in the map, rivers originating in Oromia, such as Dabus, Anger, Didesa, Gudar, Mugar, and Jama contribute about 80% of the Blue Nile water volume. Rivers such as Birbir, Gabba, Gilo, Akabo contribute about 60% of the water volume flowing to the White Nile. In other words, the contribution of Oromia rivers accounts about 60 to 86% of the Ethiopian water share in the Nile River. So hydrological power that Ethiopia sought to have over the Nile basin, therefore actually is located in Oromia, not in northern Ethiopia. Look, the reason that the GERD was established was not so much about the energy generation as it was about controlling the flow of the waters of the Nile, so that Ethiopia, with controlling the flow of the Nile, could wield geopolitical power over the whole basin. That power is actually situated in Oromia. I could say more about Sudanese and Egyptian businesses, their investments. It's been growing over the last 10 years, but in the interest of time, let me simply say that the majority of the investments that the Sudanese and the Egyptians made in Ethiopia, about 50% of them were in Oromia, most of them around Finfinne. So the economic power also is in Oromia. It's located in Oromia. Not only the hydrologic power, but the economic power for the northwestern cluster. The third is the Indian Ocean Rim blue economy. Go back. Yeah, the Indian Ocean blue economy. These are the Indian Ocean Rim countries are in the process of experiencing dramatic growth and change. As I said, by 2050, the rim will include almost 50% of the planet's people, fueled most recently by a rapid geopolitical and geoeconomic rise of Africa. Half of the world trade already traverses through this region, and the rim possesses a variety of natural resources, both maritime and terrestrial, which are vital for the well-being of the inhabitants, for trade, and for environmental stability. The scope of the development of such resources, the blue economy, that is, include food, livelihood, tourism, mineral resources, bioprospecting, of mining of the seabed, resources for blue energy is being realized, especially the coastal and island developing states who are in the forefront of the blue economy of the Indian Ocean. Now, my point here is that the economy of the New South, this includes much of Oromia and many of the fraternal peoples of southern Ethiopia that have a common history and common destination, is going to be determined by the pull of the Indian Ocean economy in the future. Ethiopia's New South will become reoriented towards the Indian Ocean, abandoning its historical Northeast African access to the world economy, and combined with the political center in the hands of southern elites and the inexorable pull of the IOR, the political economy of Ethiopia cannot escape fundamental restructuring. Let me go to the final one, and I'll complete with this. Now, if I could go through go back and simply to show you how important the Indian Ocean economy is. Look, this is the volume of trade. Next one is, these are the countries, the 27 or so countries that are members of the Indian Ocean Rim economy, and these are the associated. This is what my point is, that even the United States is now an associated member of the Indian Ocean Rim economy. China is. France is already a full member. So the point I make is that the IR members and observer status is showing you the importance of the Indian Ocean Rim economy, which is next door from Oromia. It's the only difference is that there is Somalia, which are, of course, our own brethren, and the connection there is very clear. Let me go back to the south. 2 minutes. I'll finish it. I'll really finish it in 3 minutes. Yeah, let's go to the final one. Yeah, Morris, he's actually using what he calls the social development index, which is dictated by geography, and as people interact when crisis occurs with the natural environment to shape their own destiny. The geography is destiny. There are four categories that he uses to score. The first one is what he calls the amount of energy, the energy capture, the amount of energy that civilization can usefully capture per person. As the amount of energy increases per person, the score increases. As it goes down, the score goes down for him. What she shows in the context of Oromia is that most of the hydrologic powers, the dams and the dams are in Oromia. The dams that generate electricity are in Oromia. The generation of electricity is in Oromia. And the natural gases are in the Somali region. So the South is really becoming the economic hub of Ethiopia, looking by the social development index. The second is the said ability to organize, that is measured by the size of the largest cities. That is the organization that he's talking about. The largest economies, the largest cities and the growing cities are mostly in Oromia. Third, the ability, the war-making capability. Now, I don't know how to score this, but the importance is that even in the last war, the weapons, even today, the Ethiopian government is buying weapons by selling gold. That's why they are interested in the gold in everywhere. They're collecting gold from all of the Oromia to buy weapons, contraband weapons. The people that actually the troop strength, most of them come from Oromia. And the logistics, the support for the war-making capacity of Ethiopia actually comes from Oromia. And finally, the information technology. Most of the capacity to receive and interpret information that the Ethiopian government has is basically in Oromia. So even by Ian Morris's social development index, the future of the Oromo is going to be central. Now, what I'm trying to say here is the goal of the struggle today must be to achieve the self-determination that the Oromo people have pursued for a long time. But today, in my view, geography has already structured in favor of the aspirations of the Oromo people. If we can observe, that is my call is not to say that this is inevitable, but we can change the way we observe, the way we think, and the way we project. When we must change the way we observe, think, and explain events. We must begin to understand the shape of history, not just events of the past. It's not inevitable. It's not inevitable. Human beings have a tremendous capacity to screw up things, to screw up opportunities, to screw up. And we are very good at that. We are very good at screwing up our promises, the Oromo people, that is. Unfortunately for us, if we screw it up again, not anticipating scenarios, the cost would be too high, very high, almost existential. So my call is that processes are in our favor if we capture it. So that's basically what I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Iskil. Very interesting indeed, and much to talk about. So we look forward to that. The second speaker for this panel is Milkesa Gammechu. He is currently Assistant Professor of Political Science at Albion College in the United States, Michigan. He was former cabinet member of Oromia Regional State Government and the head of the Oromia Land Administration, which is interesting in light of his topic today. So on behalf of OSA, I welcome Milkesa to this platform to address the topic for which he's well qualified: quiet annexations in Ethiopia, Amhara region's expansion to Central Oromia. So Milkesa, we look forward to your presentation and a full discussion to follow. Welcome.
Thank you, Bonnie. Good morning to all of you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
It's March, not April.
Do you see my slides?
Yes.
Yeah. Just forward. Yes. Can you hear us? We need to go full screen. Yeah. Can you go full screen?
Hi, Milkesa. Can you make it full screen?
All right. Okay.
Very good.
Sure. Yeah. Here we go. So thank you, Bonnie, for introducing me. I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to present my research. So my topic of presentation is quiet annexations in Ethiopian Federation, Amhara regional expansionism to Central Oromia. So I have outlined to talk on. So I have introduction, and I have the second subtopic: Shah administration as a colonial legacy, and then the target of Amhara regional expansionism to Central Oromia, the twin strategies of Amhara expansionism, quiet annexations, violent annexations, impacts of the conquests and annexations, and conclusion. In my introduction, the paper discusses the quiet annexations of Oromo territories by Amhara regional expansionism and its human rights dimensions. I will focus on the strategic geopolitical significance of Central Oromia. Earlier, Professor Scale was presenting about geostrategic and geoeconomic, a kind of shift from north to new south, and my argument is also, part of that earlier speech, because ever since Haile Selassie, the grandfather of Milik, and then Minilik, Haile Selassie, Derg, EPRDF, and then Prosperity, the Central Oromia, particularly Finfinne, Adama, Mojo, Bishoftu, this belt, major towns of Ethiopia are economically and politically significant, and thereby became, the site or for new battles to control those areas. And also I will focus on illegal settlements and the church implanting as political tools in controlling these strategic areas of the country. And my argument goes like this. Even though the 1995 Ethiopia's constitution establishes multinational federation, Amhara territorial expansionism and the subsequent violations did not stop. It continued quietly. And also since 2018, even further backed by armed violences. And then historically, the proper Shah was the southernmost region of Abyssinian Kingdom, which later expanded further south, acquiring new lands to the south, east, and west of Shoa, on which Menelik could draw for additional supplies of manpower and food. And thus, as a step in his conquest of the central power in Abyssinia, later Ethiopia, Menelik acquired new colonies, according to Wilbert. These new colonies are at the initial period, this south, east, and west of Shawa, which remain Shawa today, in terms of nomenclature of the administration. So the proper Shawa expanded, and the anomaly is, the Shawa, the historical Shawa administration of Ethiopia ended in 1991 to a TPLF agent or Opidio, but their colonial legacy remains with us, and influence continued. Meaning the central Oromia remained named Shawa, East Shawa, West Shawa, South West Shawa, North Shawa. So they did not regain their original indigenous names because still they are Shaws. There is a tale of two North Shawa zones in Ethiopia. One North Shawa is located in Amhara region, and the other North Shawa is located in Oromia region. They are named the same. They have the same name. And in my argument, Amhara's North Shawa continued to expand into Oromia's North Shawa, as well as East Shawa of Oromia. I'll explain that tale. So what is the target of Amhara regional expansionism as far as Central Oromia is concerned? Earlier, Professor Iskeel Gabisa clearly mentioned about the geopolitical factors, a kind of a shifting, a kind of an evolving shift from center of politics, economy used to be the north, but now it is in the central Oromia, central Ethiopia. So there is a battle, clear battle to control major towns in central Oromia. These towns are political, economic belts of the country. So there is a movement to connect Amhara regions, North Shawa, to Oromia's major towns such as Adama, Mojo, Bishoftu, and Finfinne. These major towns are the economic political belts of Ethiopia currently. Majority of the economy of Ethiopia transacts around these belts. And so far, it has been under the control of the north, even though the location geopolitically, it is located in the south. Therefore, there is a battle between the north and the south to control these major, geopolitical economy, areas of the country. The ultimate goal is either to restore imperial Ethiopia, which in fact is, in another term, there is a movement to create greater Amhara state vision. The two are almost, in one way, Greater Amhara State Vision is part of Imperial Ethiopia. We can argue, and that the twin strategies of Amhara expansionism to central Ethiopia are two. One is what I call, quiet or silent way, which means systematic land occupation, then illegal settlement, then informal petition and constitutional petition, and then annexation to Amhara region. For the purpose of this silent or quiet system of annexation, there have been two tactics. One is individually purchasing land massively, and then church implantation, massive church implantation. These served as and continue to serve as a silent way or strategy of annexation. And the second one is violent armed attacks followed by territorial occupation, settlements, and annexations. We will see one by one. As far as quiet annexations are concerned, I will focus on few districts of North Shawa and East Shawa zones of Oromia. I'm not covering all districts. For example, from 3 districts of North Shawa of Oromia, in the last couple of decades, meaning since the formation of Ethiopia's federation, Alaltu district and Kimibit districts, they are located east of Finfinne in North Shawa. They lost 21 local Bulchinsa Gandas or Kabales to Amhara region. These are the names of the 21 Kabales annexed silently, very quietly, without any noise, into the neighboring Amhara regional state. I don't read the names of the Kabales here. And in addition to these 21 Kabales from 2 districts of North Shawa, Oromia, 7 additional Kabales from Abichu and the Nya district of Oromia were annexed to Amhara region into a district called Bosonawarana district of Amhara region. So they are now administered as part of Amhara region. So in general, from 3 districts of North Shawa, Amhara, 28 Kabales have been incorporated into Amhara region without any formal referendum unconstitutionally. And there is an ongoing process of annexation right now. A local Ganda or Kabale called Tullu Ofa in Alaltu district has been occupied by illegal settlers from Amhara, and it is unofficially named Bulga City, Amhara region. So there is Bulga City in Amhara region, the officially known Bulga City, formerly functioning in Amhara region, and south of Debrecina, east of Debrecen, north of Karayu, you can find Bulga City operating, functioning. But they are renaming a site called Ganda Tullu Ofa in Alaltu district, very near to Sandafa town. If I click on this hyperlink, you will see the Google map will show there is an ongoing or renaming of the city, and my key informants from there also said there is a move to incorporate very close to Sandafa, meaning this Sandafa is located not far from Lagat Afo, Lagat Adi, but Sandafa is you pass through Sandafa to go to Shano, Kimbibi, and then Debrecen. So there is a massive move, currently to expand south westward, to to connect with Addis Ababa. So also there is a town, an illegal town called Arbarat town. It was formed in 2005 following Arbarat Selassie church implantation in the area. This Arbarat town is located between Lagatafo and Sandafa. It is completely 100% illegal town. I know that why I was the head of Oromia Land Administration. This town petitioned to join Amhara region or Addis Ababa. They refused to be governed in Oromia, and then they petitioned, but because they are not located on the border with Amhara region or Oromia, Fimpine region or Fimpine city administration, they are still in Oromia, but things are they rejected Oromia administration. Had they been on the border, on the border of Amhara region, they could have joined Amhara region. As far as East Shoa is concerned, there is a massive Amhara expansionism pushing to connect Amhara region with Adama, Mojo, and Bishoftu. Between Adama and Minjar Shonkora of North Shoa of Amhara, there is only one Kabale. They are pushing down and to meet Adama. So north of Adama town, there are legal settlers purely coming from. I know that there have been challenge. There is massive movement on this side as well. Border districts like Fantale, Boset, these are Karayus territory, Lume, Gimbichu, and Adama districts. Adama town and Adama districts are two different. And these are targeted by the forces of Amharas who are pushing down south to control those geo-economic centers. On top of this, the Oromia government is establishing a new town on 24,000 hectares of land, 13 kabales from Lume and 3 kabales from Adama district. In general, in total, 15 kabales in East Shoa, which connects Mojo, Adama with Amhara region. So this new town is they are building this under construction. So 15 kabales or 24,000 hectares, almost half of Fimpine, is not an empty territory. Oromo farmers are being evicted right now. I have the proclamation that Chafe Oromia passed to establish this new economic town. It was just, since 2020, the town is under construction between Mojo, Adama, and Amhara region. So it is problematic. And the other is violent annexations. So Amhara Special Police Forces occupied 280 hectares of lands in Shano, Imbibi district of North Shoa in 2019. When Amhara forces ordered by Asamenos Ige of Amhara region at the time to occupy this territory, I spoke to several officials in Oromia, and then even I spoke to BBC Afan Oromo service, and I was interrogated for speaking up. And then there is
2-minute notice.
Right. So I'm finishing, I think. There is Darra or Arra, in Afan Oromo Arra district in northern Shoa. It has been under frequent armed attacks by Fano militia, and Karayu has lost 10 Kabales so far to Amhara region. These are Amhara Special Forces. This is a map that shows southward expansion has continued to control major towns of Oromia. And then the impact of this conquest is that wherever this conquest is going on, there is a minoritization of Oromo communities through demographic changes, evictions, landlessness, and cultural replacements are undertaking. Language rights are being repressed. If a person, one person that is an Amhara settler, happens to be in a gathering or community, the entire population gathered are forced to speak Amharic in those conquered territories. So there are, I don't repeat, there are massacres by Amhara forces in Walaga, Karayu, Dara. Conclusion, the Amhara expansionists who rejected the federal constitution of Ethiopia at birth have continued advancing their territorial expansion through unconstitutional annexations. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed's political ideology and national narratives appeases Amhara expansionists than people. Many might expect that Abiy would confront such type of move to create greater Amhara state vision, but the ideology he has been advancing, and it enhances and empowers such movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mukesa. Appreciate the completeness, and thank you for the maps as well. It's a powerful reinforcement of your point, and that you're connecting with the points that Iskeel made earlier is extremely appropriate. Our final presentation is from Asafa Jalata, Professor of Sociology, Global and Africana Studies at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville in the US. He's an author of numerous published books, edited works, and articles with prestigious publishers, especially in Africana. He has served OSA as president, on the board, as editor of the Journal of Oromo Studies. He serves as a highly regarded commentator and analyst, invited into a diverse range of media outlets, and continues to serve as a highly productive scholar. We're delighted to have you, Asafa, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the platform of the mid-year conference to talk on your topic, Neo-Naftanya Government of Abiy Ahmed, Terrorism and Gross Human Rights Violations in Oromia and Ethiopia. Welcome, Asafa.
Can I share my presentation?
Yeah, you should have.
Thank you, Kabane, for your introduction. My topic, as Kabane already introduced, is entitled The Neo-Naftanya Government of Abiy Ahmed, Terrorism and the Gross Human Rights Violations in Oromia and Ethiopia. In fact, this paper is already published. I published last month in an international journal called Sociology Mind. If you are interested, you can Google Sociology Mind. You can read the whole article. My central themes are the following. The first one is the Abiy administration as the Neo-Naftanya government. The second theme is why the Neo-Naftanya government. The third one is who are the Neo-Naftanyas? The fourth one is the hijacked Kello struggle, and then terrorism and the gross human rights violations, the crimes against humanity in the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Then I will provide my conclusion. The Abiy government is the continuation of the Habasha settler state, which is very important to recognize, which was started by Menelik. In my discussion, I would like to make two things very clear. State and the government are not the same. Government is a subset of state. So don't confuse state and the government when I talk, when I discuss issues. Successive Ethiopian governments, successive Ethiopian governments have maintained settler state through fostering the supremacy of the Amhara language, Amhara culture, Orthodox Christianity, and the colonial ideology of Ethiopianism. I characterize the Abiy regime as neo-Neptania because it continues the colonial national building project, which was initiated by Menelik and continued by successive regimes. The presentation that Dr. Melkesa made just now really clearly demonstrates that. Abiy articulates the greatness of Ethiopia and its leaders, but the colonized people such as the Oromo know the brutality of Ethiopian colonialism, slavery, semi-slavery, which means service or gabbars, terrorism, genocide, gross human rights violations, recurrent famines, and absolute poverty. The neo-Neptanians, which I call gun-carrying officials and soldiers presently, and the neo-Neptania government practices gruesome crimes of cutting Oromo heads, mass killings, imprisonment, displacement, land expropriation and repression in Oromo society, Oromia and beyond. So this is a summary of what you have been hearing all these 4 years, what has been happening to the Oromo people. During the last 5 decades, 3 revolutionary upheavals of 1974, 1991, and 2018, but all of these revolutionary upheavals failed to transform the essence of Ethiopian imperial state, which has been practicing state terrorism and land expropriation in Oromia. It's very obvious that the regimes changed, but the Ethiopian colonial state always remains the same. People make confusion. People think that if regime change take place, they think that revolution took place. All the attempt revolutions 3 times failed, only resulted in regime changes and some other cosmetic changes. The 3 revolutionary upheavals only produced regime and the cosmetic changes. These changes could not produce peace and failed to end dictatorship and colonialism. Keep in mind always, dictatorship and colonialism has been continuing. The Ethiopian empire has been characterized by recurrent famines, wars. I already explained this, but the changes regimes claimed either socialism or federalism or democracy, but in reality, all these are names. They are fake. They have never been implemented. The 3 regime changes could not alter Ethiopian state institutions. Keep in mind this, very important, such as the army, the economy, the dominance of Orthodox Church, the media, and the bureaucracy. They have been always remained. They have been in the hands of the Neptanians. I'm going to tell you who are the Neptanians. The Neptanians or settler state in their institutions have been using political repression, and the state terrorism to silence the people. In other words, the regime changes under the leadership of Mengistu Haile Mariam of the Ethiopian military, Malad Zenawi of the TPLF EPRDF, and Abiy Ahmed of the OPDO EPRDF TPLF Prosperity Party have only introduced cosmetic changes without empowering the people through self-determination, decolonization, and substantive democracy. So all political forces that embrace Ethiopianism and protect the Ethiopian imperial state are Naphtalians. Who are the Naphtalians? The Naphtalians are those who are against the principle of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights, such as decolonization, national self-determination, popular sovereignty, and democracy. Whether they are led by the Amhara or Tigrayan or Ethiopianized Oromo leader, the protectors of the imperial Ethiopian state have used political repression, state terrorism, and the gross human rights violation to maintain different forms of Naphtanya or settler system. That is why regime changes without fundamentally transforming the authoritarian terrorist state of Ethiopia cannot solve the Oromo question and the question of other oppressed peoples, classes, and the status groups. Abiy and the Prosperity Party conducted fake elections to legitimize the power of the new Naphtanya class and its government. They excluded the OLF, OFC, and OLA from elections. Using the kangaroo parliament, Abiy regime labeled the OLA terrorist shane to dehumanize and destroy members of the organizations and Oromo nationalists at large. Also using the label shane, the Abiy government and its Naphtanya supporters have attacked members or suspected members of all Oromo independent political and civic institutions to make the Oromo people leaderless. The Abiy government has almost outlawed the OLF, which has been the brain of the Oromo national movement since the 1970s. It has arrested Dawood Ibsa, the chairman of the OLF, and imprisoned other top OLF leaders, such as Abdi Ragasa, Mikhail Boran, Kenesa Ayana, and many others. Abiy and his military, security, and the police are silently killing Oromo leaders and other nationalists who have sacrificed their lives for the liberation of Oromia and their people, the Oromo people. Thousands of OLF and OLA members were murdered and imprisoned. The Oromo prisoners are suffering in various prisons and hidden in informal places for just being Oromo without committing any crime. Oromo nationalists who have asserted that the Ethiopian empire cannot be democratized because of its Naphtanya system and the Habesha political culture, which promote zero-sum politics and the killing, are political realists and prophetic thinkers. So there have been many confusions. There are people who think that Ethiopia would be democratized and the time is over, everything is over, and they have been celebrating that, but in reality, all of their predictions failed. Ethiopia remained a decadent empire. Abiy orders to kill his potential and real enemies. He is the supreme commander of the military, political, security structures, which combine the political leaders and the leaders of the intelligence and the security networks, the defense forces, and the police. Abiy orders to kill his potential and real enemies. He is the supreme commander of political structures. He also created with the president of Oromia paramilitary groups known as Gachana Sirna, defenders of the system, and the Shane, which have similar clothes and hairstyles with the Ola, to use them in destroying Oromos and suspected Oromos who are suspected as their enemies. The government's Shane In fact, government has Shane. There is no Shane, only Shane, government Shane exists. Have killed, terrorized, looted, and abused the Oromo people to turn them against the Ola. Some members of these groups are non-Oromos, particularly members of settler communities that have hostility against the Oromo society. So these non-Oromo Shanes are organized by Abiy and his Neptanya supporters. From 2018 to present, Abiy has given permission to kill Oromos who are considered nationalists and those suspected of sympathizing with or supporting the OLF and the Ola. The killing of Oromos have been graphic, involving burning alive, raping, cutting necks, setting fires to corpses, throwing dead bodies in the street or forests, burning the house of Oromo farmers, burning pregnant women homes, and exclusions at public places. If you want to details of all this information, you can refer to Oromia Support Group. Thank you, Dr. Galato. I also really congratulate you for your marriage, Dr. Galato. Regarding the Oromo people, the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights are ignored. The social, economic, and cultural and the political rights of the Oromo people have been violated. The United Nations ignores massive political repression, state terrorism, genocidal massacres, and the gross human rights violations imposed by the neo-Neptunian regime on the Oromo society. The Oromo people deserve national self-determination by applying the internationally accepted principle of the United Nations. The United Nations recognizes, quote, the desire of every people or every nation to determine its destiny, free from dictatorship or controlled by others. This is a very important principle that must be applied. The principle of national self-determination is based on the 4 pillars of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 1, the right to life, liberty, and security. 2nd, civil liberty, property rights. 3, political and social rights. And 4, economic and social and cultural rights. The Ethiopian colonial state, from Menelik up to Abiy Ahmed, has denied the Oromo people all political, economic, cultural, and social rights. The denial of national self-determination to the colonized, terrorized, and impoverished nations, such as the Oromo, perpetuates state terrorism, gross human rights violations, ignorance, poverty, and suffering. Abiy and his allied Neptanya groups and organizations have attacked the Oromo national movement. Sorry. I'm sorry, I got confused. Okay. Abiy and his allied Neptanya groups and organizations have attacked the Oromo national movement and the Oromo people. Specifically, they are determined to destroy the OLF, the OLA, and OPC, and to disorganize the Oromo people to make them leaderless and loot their natural and human resources. The example that Dr. Milkesa gave also is very small scope, demonstrate this reality. However, these conditions have created conducive conditions to transform the Kello movement into the Ola, which has been expanding all over Oromia and fighting to uproot Ethiopian settler colonialism and its Neptunian institutions, including the Ethiopian settler state. The Oromo people have one of the following 2 options. This is the conclusion. Either to fully support or join the OLA and intensify the liberation struggle to achieve independence, or choose to remain passive, support the new Netanyahu government, and continue to suffer from the consequence of state terrorism, genocide, and the gross human rights violations. If the Oromo majority chooses the second option, to be passive, which means to be passive and to support the regime, the Abiy government continues to terrorize Oromo nationalists and their supporters and transfer Oromo lands and other resources to the new Netanyahu class and its allies, and further impoverish the Oromo. It also continues, if Oromo continues the way they are doing now, if the majority of them remain to be passive, it also continues to dismantling Oromia, to continue the Netanyahu national building project. It uses famines and displacement to punish Oromo farmers who are suspected of sympathizing with or supporting the OLA. But suppose the Oromo majority selects the first option, which means the struggle. In that case, they can save themselves from destruction by using the right of self-defense by any means necessary to achieve national self-determination and sovereignty, to enjoy all forms of freedoms that the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights recognizes. The Oromo people have few friends. To survive as a free and independent people, they must restore the unity and the organizations they had under the Gada Republic and the Kello movement, and they stand up for self-defense with OLA to re-establish a free and democratic society, which will be a member of the United Nations. So there is no free lunch. If the Oromo people want their freedom, if they want to determine their destiny, they must be determined rather than being divided into localities, or rather than trying to be Ethiopians. But they should support the Oromo national movement and the struggle for liberation once and for all. Thank you for listening.
Excellent. Asif, I congratulate you. You had 52 seconds left when you completed. So we'll hand that over to the discussion. So here we have three excellent presentations. They've even referred internally to the ways one paper supports the other and points that are made. I would like to proceed with asking questions of Isgail's paper, and then of Milkesa's and Asif's. And if the questioner will point out the interlinkages that you see, or points that you would like to make, please do that. We'll start with the people who are in the room, and then we will take the next question from people who are in the Zoom related to these papers on this panel. So I open the question and answer to those of you who are here in the venue.
I have a question
Please.
to Professor Asaf.
Would you like, do we have a microphone for our
It's
question?
very short question. I can.
But the people in the room need to hear.
Okay.
Your voice, we can hear your voice, but the people in the Zoom room need a microphone to access your question. So here we are. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Makbid. Professor Asaf, the question is your concept new Neftanya synonym to new colonialism? You didn't listen. You can.
Asafa, are you muted? Could you unmute yourself?
Yeah, do you hear me now?
Yes, we hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. The question is, neo-Neftanya is a neo-colonialism?
Yes, that's the question.
I mean, these two words are interconnected. So you don't understand colonialism, Ethiopian colonialism, without understanding these Naftanya institutions. The Naftanya institutions are the Ethiopian government and the different form, the Ethiopian state and different governments. Different governments, Mengistu Haile Mariam, the TPLF government, the Abiy government. So many people get confused that the Naftanyas are only Amara. It's not true. If you understand the formation of the Ethiopian state, all people who supported the Menelik political agenda, regardless of their ethnic background or national background, they become Naftanyas. They carried guns, implemented its policies. So the same thing now, it doesn't matter whether it happened in the last decades of the 19th century or this time, in the 21st century, the agents of the Naftanyas are ruling Ethiopia. Therefore, they are Naftanyas. So it's a very important, that's why people get confused. They don't understand this system. We are talking about systems. We are not talking about individuals, whether they speak Amharic or speak Tigrinya or Afan Oromo, it doesn't matter. They are maintaining the same colonial domination, colonial system that terrorizes people, expropriate Oromo lands and Oromo resources. That's why many activists, many political entrepreneurs fail to understand. So without understanding this reality, without dismantling the Ethiopian colonial state, there cannot be fundamental transformation. There cannot be revolution in Ethiopia. The Oromo question cannot be resolved. So the Oromo nationalists should recognize this clearly and stop those people who are confusing these terms so that they can manipulate the Oromo people to the direction that they want to take the Oromo people.
Thank you. We now have, there are no questions entered into the chat so far. We have people monitoring the chat questions. You're invited on the Zoom platform to enter there. Seeing none, we will take question in the audience. There's the third person here in the row.
My question is directed to Professor Rizkia.
Okay.
And Professor Rizkia, you have expressed in a very clear language that how the center of gravity, political center of gravity is actually in favor of the South, which was actually dominated by the North. And in your conclusion, you said that if we capture the process which is favorable to the Oromo people, now is the chance. Why do you think that the Oromo couldn't so far capture this opportunity to use this favorable process? That's my question. Thank you.
Ms. Gill, would you like to come here to respond? If you come to this microphone. People on the Zoom can hear.
May I add some comments before you answer?
You want consolidated questions or one at a time? Let's give it a try. Be patient.
Okay, my name is Tasfai Ragasa. I just want to point some what as Professor Iskel mentioned as a conclusion, also on that point that geography gives an opportunity, but I think it is an opportunity. But the determining factor, as some authors have put it, is democratization and the freeing of the potential of the people to grasp that and to unravel their knowledge, resources to use to their development. So what do you think is then, as my colleague also asked, is preventing the Oromo, and what will also in the future prevent the Oromo from grasping this opportunity.
Sure. Yeah, the question from Sisa is about why do you think there are people have been unable? Well, like I said, I wasn't looking back. I was actually trying to predict the future, even though I was a historian. So the question that you're asking is about why have the Oromo people been unable to capture? That's about the past. What I spoke about is the future, that the opportunity is greater. I don't think the Oromo people have, even in the past, unable to advance their cause. I think they have. In the 1970s, the question that the Oromos raised was a question of survival as an Oromo nation, because of the forces of assimilation, accommodation. Even the continued existence of the Oromo as a nation was in question in the 1970s. Today, that's not in question. The Oromo are a nation. There are institutions like, even though captured by others, but there are the institutions that the Oromo people created by their own struggle are still there. Whether that is the Oromian national state, the Oromo language. We've made a tremendous progress even in the past. So I wouldn't say that we were unable to make advances by capturing the forces. What I was referring to is the future, and I still believe that there is a fundamental transformation going on in the region that would favor the Oromo to grasp. The question is grasp the forces, the economic and geostrategic forces, to advance their own goals. So being organized, looking at long-term events and processes, those would help in the future. Democratization, look, I think where Ethiopia stands right now, or Ethiopian politics stands right now, it has experienced three fundamental failures: the failure of nation building, the failure of democratization, and the failure of federalization. This has failed. Even the experiment by the prosperity regime to try to reverse the gains of the past in terms of achieving self-determination had been resisted at a very high cost. Been resisted in the north, been resisted in the south, and I don't think there is enough steam left in the sail of Abiy Ahmed right now, or the Prosperity Party, to try to implement their agenda of autocratization, centralization, and unitarization. That is what we need to understand at the moment, that it is really failed. I don't think he will have the support that he needs, even from the art supporters of centralization in the north. You know, we can see right before our own eyes today that the people that he counted on to advance his agenda are actually against him. That is simply a sign of failure. So it's not just democratization. The formulas that were offered in the past are not even enough. After genocide, even the federal experiment, the federal solution, the democratization of the federation has failed. So new ideas must be brought to the table. How did that happen? This is the question that I usually get. These are tactical questions. How do we? These are matters of tactic. We will do as a political party, as a group, what we need to do, and it begins by redeeming the time, by understanding what's going on. And my view is that there is no force that is left in the prosperity bandwagon today to carry on to conclusion what he started in 2018. It has really come to a screeching halt right now. the effort to centralize, autocratize, and unitarize has ended, basically. What we need to do is within ourselves. One of the things that I said is scenario building. Let's build a scenario building right now and do what we must. It's clear. Let's do what we have been doing. Right now, we are divided. I really don't want to get into the political nitty-gritties of what we do, but look, the forces are there. Recognize that the forces are there. Let's put that in our sail and do what we must, and we know what to do. Begin with working together. But those are tactical questions where people actually sit down and then strategize, have a roadmap. So that's basically what I would say.
So before we go, can I have some add something on it?
Let's, we have a question. We want to give people in the Zoom room a chance, so we'll come back to this. I'll go next.
Okay.
We want to, Milkesa, we have a question for you that reads, in the proclamation you cited, Oromia regional government announced a restructuring of Oromo cities, including areas like Madawalabu, etc. What is behind it? Why now?
All right. Thank you. I think the proclamation I mentioned is about the new town being built by Oromia regional state. It was the proclamation was proclamation number 226/2020. It is not about the restructuring Oromia cities and Oromia administration, Oromia zonal administrations and districts. No, that is different. The proclamation I mentioned established new town between Adama, Mojo, and Amhara regional government, particularly on the side of Minjar Shonkra. So that is different proclamation. I can share that proclamation with you. Yeah, I think, yeah. So I can share my the proclamation with you. Yeah, this is the proclamation that I was referring earlier. It is a proclamation to establish, they call the new town as Gada Special Economic Zone, just to deceive, they use Oromo name, but they are selling lands to foreign investors, including from China, India, and other non-Oromo investors. So this was the proclamation I mentioned. It was a 2020 proclamation. We cannot confuse with the recent restructuring that Prosperity Party is doing. For my, if you ask my own view regarding the recent restructuring of cities in Oromia districts and new zone formations from previous zones, I don't understand why they introduced the issue at this time. Probably contested towns, probably historically disputed towns could be there. I see negative consequence of that. Prosperity do not like unity of the Oromo people. They may want to decentralize conflict into making people busy talking about local areas, local towns and districts, and a kind of decentralizing conflict from the center to peripheral zonal and warada level disputes. So I suspect that could be the explanation behind the recent restructuring of administrations in Oromia? Thank you.
Okay, so we do have some questions in the Zoom, but we promised that we would come back into the room. We'll try to come back and forth. Professor Makuria had a question to follow up the previous one posed to a scale, and I guess we have one to piggyback on that. So yeah, the microphone, here we go. We'll start with Makuria and then.
Oh, well, thank you very much. But my question is a little bit based on what Iskal said, but even the others can also answer.
Okay.
The question is this about capturing the opportunity. The conflict or the struggle is not between, or not only between the Oromo people and the state. In fact, not the conflict per se, but the affair is not just between the Oromo people and the Ethiopian state, but the international community has a lot to say in what is going to be decided. What we see now is the world knows that human rights violation is happening in Oromia on a large scale, but we don't hear from the international bodies, the governments, about this problem. They don't even mention that the Oromo problem exists. How do you put this problem in the issue of capturing the opportunity? If the Oromo do what they need to do, can they really come to achieve what they want to achieve? Or how should they work more on diplomacy? Are they not working on diplomacy today?
And they would be, Mosisa, could you help us with that? We're getting the microphone to the right person there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, my question goes to three of them, by the way. I can present it at a time, isn't it? Yeah. So in the first place, I would like to thank Professor Scale on his presentation, because this is a new knowledge for me, to be honest, and which I have been looking for, but I couldn't get. And I congratulate him, by the way, for that matter. Well, with regard to that one, my question is, your reference, Maurice, actually presented, or he gave 3 tools of analysis of that development. But I might have actually missed what you said, long-standing archaeological factor, which I didn't catch actually. But if I missed it, please forgive me. But I need to you to say something about that, how it is related to the Oromo situation. And the second question goes to Dr. Melkesa. Well, actually, he told us about the expansion of the colonial descendancy or legacy. But my question is, what are the factors to that expansion as ex-insider of the system? What did you observe and what can you tell us? Not from the common knowledge sense, but from your findings. What can you tell about that? And how did these factors impacted on this expansion? And how did they play that role? And some explanation from that. The same thing goes to Professor Asafa, by the way. He told us how Neftanyas or neo-Neftanyas are actually doing to the Oromo people at the same time now in the region. But my question again says, what are the factors that are contributing to this and how they are contributing to that? In fact, I have seen some elements from your conclusion, but the reasons or the factors are not clearly set, which contributes to your conclusion. Thank you.
All right, we have, I think we'll deal with the ones that were directly addressed to you, Scale. And then these were addressed also to Milkesa and Asafa. So we'll just take the turn in responding. And as you respond, it's the general question first and then also the specific questions to you.
On the question of the international community, support from the international community, since we already looked about global developments. What is known as the international community? Well, I don't know what else describes the. It has a bias. It has a bias to protect the international system. Anything that seems to dismantle the international system, they are almost congenitally against it. They're almost biased to go against it. In the case of the Oromo, our goals have been defined by our enemies. We're defined by our enemies as secessionists, iconoclasts, destroyers of the system, the international system. And every government official that I actually meet, that's the challenge, to tell them that we are not destroyers, we are builders, because we're already being defined. And we're not doing a good job in that respect as organizations, not individuals, as organizations, because at the end of the day, they listen to not individuals, but to organizations that could bring about change. So we're defined. We're defined as destroyers of the international system. And Western governments and others are out there to protect their own interests individually, but also the international system itself, the state system. That is what is the bias of the international community, and particularly the African Union. Our case has always been portrayed a very negative way. It's a challenge. I don't know why we are unable to overcome it, but that they have that inherent bias because of the way we're defined. I don't know if I answered your question. With regard to archaeology, I was talking about methodology that Ian Morris uses. That we see there are historical evidence where you look at documents that would get you probably about 20 generations. But that's not enough for patterns to emerge. The patterns in the past, to observe patterns, that's not enough. That historians should go beyond what is defined as history into prehistory, to have that long durée perspective, like 15,000 years that Ian Morris himself looked back to try to understand patterns. And it's those patterns and the mega trends that actually help us to predict the future. So archaeology is one set of evidence. Archaeology, genetics, linguistics, they take you beyond what is considered as history to the realm of prehistory, and that's where you actually find patterns. How does that apply to the Oromo? Here is the thing that I really want to underscore about that. What I was saying is that we are always looking at events in isolation. We're not looking at patterns, long-term patterns, even in our own historical craft, and also in our politics or in our struggle. What we need to change is to have a long-term perspective. Look, the way we see our struggle today, we are despondent, we are depressed, right? But have a long-term view. Have a long-term view. We have made tremendous progress. And if you look forward, we could do well if we could pull our acts together. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. So let me call on Milkesa, who had a question directed to you. There were also a couple of other questions to Milkesa on the chat, which I'll just point out. The Amhara region's desire to occupy large swaths of Oromia land has always been there. However, as we can see from your presentation, the recent effort has doubled. So who should do what, and what actions do you think can be taken to curb their expansion before it's too late? This is a question from the group, and also related. How do you see the government's restructuring or formation of Shagar City? There are lots of contradictions going on currently around that. So I just wanted to wed these since you will have the platform, but not to forget the question that was raised from the floor.
Yeah, got you. So basically, I see three questions being raised. Number one question was the factors behind such massive movement to, incorporate, annex, or control territories, Oromo territories in central Oromia. The major factors and what contributes to this level of massive control by Amhara expansionists. So let me take two cases to explain my point. The establishment of an illegal city or town called Arbarat town. This Arbarat town is located between Lagat-Afo town and Sandafa, east of Addis Ababa and Finne. This town was established during the 2005 national election. A church called Arbarat Selassie was implanted, and then people came from the Amhara region and started legally settling. And during national elections, in Ethiopia, there almost illegal settlement is legal, because government needs votes. Therefore, you are encouraged to occupy farmers' land and buy it or whatever. During national election. As a result, Arbarat town was established starting from the eve of national election of 2005. And then by the end of the election and declaration of who will won and whatever, a town has emerged. Then who contributed for the emergence of this new legal town? Local administrators are part of the problem. They often take bribes, and they are part of encouraging newcomers to occupy, buy land from farmers and build their own houses. And in this movement to occupy territories, local Kabale level administrators, district level administrators, and zonal officials, and also regional government kind of have a role in kind of either they are complicit about the crimes and the illegal settlements, or they clearly the Oromia government is at different levels have participated, involved in the occupation of those territories. Now Arbarat town refused to be administered under Oromia government. They demanded to be included in either in Amhara region or in Addis Ababa city government. So they have their own Amharic schools, Amharic administration, and then everything. Now things are complicated. Who contributed in this regard? Obviously, the government of Oromia is part of the project. And the other case I want to stress is about the Amhara Special Forces occupation of Shano town. This Shano is located in Imbibit Warada or district in North Shore. It happened in 2019, and I was at that time the head of land administration of Oromia. I wrote a letter to the office of the OPDO or ODP at that time, office of the president. I talked to the president. twice, talked to in the ODP secretariat, we have a rural department. I have several times insisted we have to take a measure, even to the extent that I have talked to Republican Guards chief, and he said, well, we will take some, shalakas to the area and they will leave the area, they said. Okay, that's good. And I talked to federal police force. At the end of the day, no one responded. They are unwilling to intervene. As a result, those forces who occupied 280 hectares of land in Kimibit Warada, they started to mobilize youths to construct their homes and houses and build another town. Now there is big town around that. If you go there, it says, welcome to Amhara Regional Government, Shano local administration, whatever. They have posted that. And so the Oromia Regional Government is either reluctant or complicit in this Amhara expansionism to Oromia from the north to the south. And yeah. And the second question, what should we do, and what is who should do what? As scholars and as researchers, we have to expose that such type of violations of Oromo national self-determination rights, and opposition parties or political parties of Oromo should also mobilize and alert the people regarding these issues. And at the end of the day, the Oromo should liberate itself from agents who are against the national interest of the Oromo people. Unless we have our own agent that leads us, I don't think we are going to stop the movement, the expansionism. And finally, about Sugar City. What I can say is two things. Sugar City is imposed from above. And the local people, Oromo farmers surrounding, Finfinne, did not know anything about Sugar City. So even the Chafe Oromia did not know when Sugar City was formed. Therefore, when you impose a city or rural area, which means you are changing rural lands into urban land, thereby making farmers landless. I mean, you make them overnight landless, meaning, you cannot have farmland when a city is formed on your land. Automatically you lose. The only thing you get is a compensation, which is very low, accumulating compensation. And so farmers in Sugar City are by law landless. It is a kind of top-down approach. For now, I don't want to speak the further vision of Abiy in creating this Sugar City, because Sugar is Finfinne, but now Sugar has expanded to include another territories of Oromo. So this is what I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. It was a very fulsome response to the question. Appreciate it. Azefa, the same question went to you in terms of the details for how it is that this can happen. This goes against Constitution, goes against the rights and will of the people. As I interpret the question, this is the mechanisms that you're referring to.
The factors, yeah.
The factors that lead to the conclusions and the materials that you present. So.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
the questioners. I will start with Professor Makuria's question regarding the international community. When we talk about international community, we have to keep in mind two important things. One, the international community is based on its capitalist world system. Second, the international community is union of states. States want to protect their interests, their capitalist interests. So the idea of universal declaration of human rights, about human rights, those are just in order to tell people we also consider human rights. They are not really this much interested in human rights, to tell you the truth. States are not interested to protect human rights. So if people want to protect their human rights, it's up to them. It's up to them to get organized to fight for their rights. If you are not, if you don't take care of your business, get organized and fight for your right, you don't achieve it. So you might say, why? So here,
Asefa, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Your camera is off and people would like to see you while you're talking, if possible.
okay. All right. I'm glad they want to see me.
They do. There's a groundswell of demand to see you. Thank you.
Okay. So the thing is, so might is right in the capitalist world system. So the question, next question is related to the another questioner. I don't know. I don't remember the name. The thing is that you wanted to repair my presentation that I didn't explain very well about the Naptanya forces, how the mechanism of it is working, or something like that, in relation to my conclusion. So the thing is, there are two things that we have to keep in mind: external factors and the internal factors. When I mentioned about the external factors, about global capitalism, states, union of states or United Nations, their principles, their roles. And when it comes to Oromo issues, the Oromo people should ask themselves. There are things that Oromo people didn't yet settle. First, there is uneven development of Oromo nationalism. That uneven development is facilitated by Ethiopianized Oromos or Naptanya Oromos. The second one is localized Oromos, who didn't yet recognize the Oromo national project. Both Oromo Naptanyas or Ethiopianized Oromos and the localized Oromos don't recognize national project. Therefore, they are always like pincers movement. They act against the Oromo national movement. They are working against the Oromo Liberation Front, against the Liberation Army, now even against Oromo Federalist Congress, because these three organizations are talking about national interest. These Ethiopianized Oromos or Naptanyas or localized Oromos, they are only interested to promote their own agenda. When they are doing that, they are going to collaborate with the colonial state, with international imperial interstate system. So if you want to change the ground, Oromo nationalists must be well organized, defeat internal enemies of the Oromo national interest. Ethiopianized Oromos and localized Oromos. Localized Oromos are not enemies, but they are politically not very conscious. Ethiopianized Oromos are not conscious. They are very much conscious of their interest, their economic interest, their power. Therefore, they are going to sell the Oromo to the one who paid high. That's what Dr. Milkesa was telling without mentioning what I'm saying. They are selling Oromo land. They are introducing many things. They are bringing international investors, international agents, sell Oromo land. They don't care about the Oromo people. They want to displace, terrorize, and take over Oromo lands. So this is called totally a kind of neoliberal agenda of the global capitalist system. So the neoliberal agenda is implemented through various forms of violence. So if Oromos would think that the international community is going to going to advance their interests. They are going to talk for them. They are going to promote their interests. We are cheating ourselves. The international community only listens to you when you become force, when you say no is no, nobody is going to violate my right, when you start to defend yourself. So Oromo nationalists must clean up their act, be united and fight as formidable force. That is the only way that they listen to you. A simple case is look at the TPLF, the TPLF regime, how the international community start to listen to them because they made the Ethiopian government ungovernable. They frightened the system. So the international community, in order to keep the Ethiopian system intact, intervened and reconciled. I don't know how long it is going, reconciled between the TPLF and the Abiy government. So the Oromo people started to produce tangible results since the Oromo Liberation Army started to take serious actions, resist the neo-colonial, the neo-Neptanya system. They started to secretly talk about the Oromo forces. Secretly. Why they don't talk openly about the Oromo Liberation Movement? They don't talk it because we didn't yet reach to that level. So there is no easy way. If we want our victory, we must be united, join or support OLA and march forward. Otherwise, if you sit down and wait for an international community, we are wasting our time. Another thing is we shouldn't be hijacked by modernist analysis. The modernist analysis, they don't tell you for organization of forces, contradiction forces. They just want to talk about geography, about talking about different localities. We need to understand social forces that are at work in the Ethiopian empire. Thank you very much.
Very good. We have reached the 3:30 time for our end of this panel. I thank these panelists sincerely for the material they brought forward. Speaking for myself, I think it would be a very interesting activity to engage Professor Morris in a discussion about what is going on in the region in that arc, and to see what he, how he would respond, and to make him aware of the fact that there's an emerging, once well-hidden force in that region that will be possibly very significant as his projection unfolds. It's combining the knowledge we have of the social forces that Sefa is referring to with the inevitable direction that the economy is going. Thank you for the details you provided in answer to the question, Mokesa. I appreciate, as moderator and representing OSA here, the participation of those of you in the audience. And I express on behalf of all of us appreciation for all of your contributions to the panel. Thank you.